I'll just go ahead and begin once I see that we're streaming. All right, it does look like we are live streaming and recording at this time. So at this time, good morning. My name is Andrew French. I'm chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission, joined by my colleagues, Commissioner Keene and Commissioner Keither. And at this time, I am convening the hearing in the matter of the 2023 Wolf Creek Triennial Decommissioning Financing Plan in KCC docket number 24 WCNE 235 GIE. This is a statutorily required hearing in this proceeding. May I have the entries of appearance from council, please, starting with Evergy and Wolf Creek?
Yes, good morning. My name is Roger Steiner, counsel for the joint owners. My address is 1200 Main Street, Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you, Roger. Good morning. And for KEPCO?
Good morning. This is Susan Cunningham appearing on behalf of Kansas Electric Power Cooperative, Inc. at 600 Southwest Corporate View, Topeka, Kansas.
Morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Entry of appearance for CURB.
Yes, this is Todd Love appearing on behalf of the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board.
Good morning, Todd. And for KCC staff?
Yes, good morning. This is Carly Massentine and Kyler Weininger appearing on behalf of KCC staff.
Good morning. All right, with that, does staff have a recommendation regarding notice of this proceeding?
Yes, staff recommends a finding that notice was proper. On March 19th, the commission issued an order setting the procedural schedule in this docket, which set today's hearing for this date and time. The parties also convened for a pre-hearing conference in anticipation of this hearing on July 16th, and the parties are present here today indicating that notice was properly received.
Thank you, Carly. Are there any objections to notice? Hearing none, I will find that the notice is proper. The commission has jurisdiction over this proceeding at this time and place. Want to move first to preliminary matters. I do understand the parties plan to request we waive post-hearing briefing. Is there any objection to that? Without objection, I will grant that motion to waive post-hearing briefing. Are there any other preliminary matters we need to address? Seeing none, we will move to the procedure for the hearing. I understand that Mr. Steiner will be making a brief opening statement, and after his opening statement, we'll follow the order of witnesses that was agreed to in the pre-hearing conference. Since the parties have reached a unanimous settlement, the only cross-examination will be by the commissioners, but the party sponsoring the witness does reserve the right to redirect. And I also understand the parties indicated they will not make closing statements. So with that, we will turn to our one opening statement, and that is from Mr. Roger Steiner. Go ahead, Mr. Steiner.
Thank you and good morning. May it please the commission. My name is Roger Steiner. I'm an attorney for Evergy. My opening statement is on behalf of the joint owners of the Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation, Evergy Kansas Central, Evergy Kansas Metro, and KEPCO. Brett Lovell will be appearing as a witness on behalf of the joint owners after my opening. Briefly, this docket is the 12th in a series of dockets over the last 30 years that review the Wolf Creek decommissioning studies. The purpose of the docket is to approve a decommissioning methodology, determine a reasonable estimate of the Wolf Creek decommissioning costs, and to set a cost escalation rate. These commission determinations are used to set the accrual levels of the decommissioning trust accounts of Evergy and KEPCO to assure that sufficient funds are collected from Kansas ratepayers to pay for the decommissioning of the Wolf Creek nuclear facility. In this case, we filed our application on September 1st of last year. That application contained two decommissioning estimates and a cost escalation rate. There's no dispute among the parties concerning the cost escalation rate or the decommissioning estimates. And just a reminder, the commission selected the decon alternative method of decommissioning in its last decommissioning review. CURB didn't file any testimony concerning the estimates or the escalation rate. Staff examined the application, and the estimates and determined that decon alternatives should be used and that the escalation rates were appropriate. The joint owners entered into a unanimous stipulation with all parties and agreed the decon alternative estimate should be used. Cost of this estimate is $1.17 billion. That's in 2023 dollars. And the parties also agreed to use the joint owners' proposed escalation rate. The commission will have the opportunity to review the ratepayer impact in future Evergy rate cases. The testimony supporting the stipulation of Brett Lovell and staff witnesses Ashlyn Heffley and Adam Gatewood show that the settlement agreement meets the commission's settlement standards. And I'll just go through those briefly. Number one, all parties have had the opportunity to be heard. The agreement is supported by competent and substantial evidence. The settlement agreement uses the cost estimate and the escalation rate contained in the joint owners application, and no party has questioned the accuracy of those estimates. Number three, the agreement conforms to applicable law. The settlement agreement addresses the issues the commission must address under the Kansas statutes. And number four, while the rates won't change as a direct result of this settlement agreement, the agreement ensures the rates Evergy in the Evergy rate cases will be reasonable. And finally, the fifth standard, the agreement is in the public interest. It's in the public interest because it recognizes the need to address funding for spent fuel storage now, which allows the benefit of the trust fund earning interest over time, requiring less overall contribution from customers. The public interest is advanced when an appropriate amount of funds is set aside today to assure that Wolf Creek is responsibly decommissioned in the future. The joint owners request that the commission approve the settlement agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. With that, we will move to the examination of witnesses, which, because this is a unanimous settlement, is really just going to be an opportunity for the commissioners to ask questions if they have any. And we will start with our first witness being from the company. And so, Mr. Snyder, you may call your first witness.
Company calls Brett Lovell.
Brett Lovell's here.
Good morning, Mr. Lovell, and I am going to swear you in. We don't have a court reporter with us this morning, so if you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Steiner.
Would you say your name for the record, please?
Brett Lovell.
And Mr. Lovell, where do you work?
Evergy,
And what is your position there?
Manager of Corporate Treasury.
Mr. Lovell, did you cause to be filed in this case direct testimony, rebuttal testimony, and testimony in support of the stipulation?
I did.
Do you have any changes or corrections to that testimony?
I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions that are contained in the testimony we just discussed, would your answers be substantially the same?
It would be the same. No changes.
Are the answers contained in the three pieces of testimony we mentioned true and accurate to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes, they are.
I would tender the witness for commissioner questions and would ask that level direct, level rebuttal, and level testimony in support of stipulation be entered into evidence and spread upon the record.
Is there any objection to the motion to admit the reference testimony? Hearing no objection, the reference testimony will be admitted. At this time, we will turn to commissioners for any questions. Commissioner Keene, I see you've got your camera on, so I'm going to turn to you first. Do you have any questions for this witness?
Just a couple. Thank you, Chair French. Good morning, Mr. Lovell.
Good morning.
Mr. Lovell, within your direct and rebuttal testimony, in my opinion, you have both thoroughly and I think pretty thoughtfully addressed the major issues of cost estimations and cost estimates, if you will, escalation rates, and the choice of the decon alternative. So what I would like to ask you is this. In your rebuttal testimony, it's not necessarily a screen share on this, but within your rebuttal testimony, this is rebuttal testimony filed with the commission on June 10, 2024. On page 2 at lines 15 through 18, you indicate this, and I'll read this into the record. It says, staff witness Heffley mentions that there's a possibility to extend the life of Wolf Creek beyond the 2045. Question is, do you agree? Your answer is yes, I agree. And I also agree with witness Heffley that any extension of plant life is not part of this proceedings. Granted, the fact that it's not part of the proceedings, what I would like to do is just briefly take advantage of your thoughts about the prospect or options that might lie ahead in terms of extending the life of Wolf Creek beyond 2045.
The two initial replies would be, one, it's beyond my scope. It's a little more of a technical response and perhaps even a regulatory or a legal response, especially with the sensitivity of nuclear power. It's also early in the process, and so the intent would be to progress through the current licensing period and continue to evaluate that as time goes by. The plan itself got strong endorsement through the TLG review and their inspection. But again, nuclear as a power source is vulnerable to changes in the industry and the political climate, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair answer. I didn't intend to mousetrap you by doing it. In fact, the reason I even brought the subject up, acknowledging that it is, in the literal sense, beyond the purview of this proceeding per se, is that I think there's a general concern. If I understand, within the SPP footprint, there are two nuclear plants, of which Wolf Creek is one. There's another one located in Nebraska. Do you know, is that correct?
I believe, but I'm not an expert, but I believe that's right.
Oh, okay. Again, I'm not trying to mousetrap you, but the reason for even broaching the question is I think there's a concern about maintaining, if you will, I'm speaking for myself, the diversity of our baseload fuel sources, including nuclear, and the fact that we are blessed to have this plant within not only the SPP footprint, but within the state and under the control of our utilities here in the state. I think it's very beneficial in the long term. So that's kind of an editorial comment you didn't ask for, but I simply wanted to at least provide some underlying rationale for why I did ask a question that was beyond the purview of this. As I said initially, I thought your testimony, pre-filed direct and rebuttal, was quite thorough, and I really have no questions to ask you beyond that. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Keen. Commissioner Keither, do you have any questions of this witness?
No, thank you. I would agree that I think all of the presentation has been very, very thorough and very understandable for somebody coming in new to the commission. I've come at Wolf Creek at a different angle, but this is first round at the commissioner, and I found it very understandable and concise and good presentation. Thank you.
Well, with that, I also have no questions. So, Mr. Lovell, you may step down virtually.
Thank you.
And we will move to our two staff witnesses. Staff, you may call your first witness.
Warren Chair French, staff calls Ashland Heffley.
All right. Good morning, Ms. Heffley. If you would please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Kyler.
Please state your name and full title.
My name is Ashland Heffley. I am Utilities Engineer for Kansas Corporation Commission.
And what is your business address?
1500 Southwest Arrowhead Road, Topeka, Kansas.
Are you the same Ashlyn Heffley who caused to be filed in this docket direct testimony on May 10th, 2024, and testimony in support of settlement on June 28th, 2024?
I am.
Do you have any corrections that you wish to make to either of those testimonies?
I do. I have one correction in the support of settlement agreement testimony on page 4, line 14. The question should read, have you reviewed the 3-factor test used by the commission to evaluate a settlement agreement instead of 5-factor test?
And do you have any corrections to your pre-filed direct testimony? Chair French, I move to admit the pre-filed direct testimony and pre-filed testimony in support of the settlement agreement to the record.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the reference testimonies of Ms. Ashlyn Heffley will be admitted into the record. And with that, I assume you are tendering the witness for the commission's cross-examination, Mr. Weiniger?
Yes, Chair.
All right, thank you. We will now move to any commissioner questions. And again, I will start with Commissioner Keene.
Good morning, Ashlyn.
Morning.
I'd have to say again, in the case of your testimony, all of your pre-filed testimony, that I found it to be first-rate, frankly, and very enlightening. And I appreciate the thoroughness with which you undertook the task of approaching the subject matter and in the process educating us. So I guess in fairness to Mr. Lovell, I'm going to ask you to walk the same plank just a little bit if you would care to. You did broach the subject of the possible extension beyond 2045. I'm not asking for any dissertation here, but any thoughts that you might have with respect to that issue prospectively, I would appreciate.
Of course. To my knowledge, the license extension process is a pretty lengthy one. So I believe to continue to adequately review the reasonableness of the decommissioning plan, we should be aware of where they are at in that process, and the commission should take that timing and feasibility into consideration when approving decommissioning studies.
Very good. Do you know when that next process is due? Do you have any idea when that would be?
I do not.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your testimony very much. Appreciate your work as well. I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Keene. Commissioner Keither, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
And I also don't have any questions, so I think you're done, Ms. Heffley. You also may virtually step down, and we will allow staff to call its second witness.
Staff calls Adam Gatewood.
Good morning, Mr. Gatewood. Will you please raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Weininger.
Will you state your name and full title?
Adam H. Gatewood. I'm Managing Financial Analyst for the Kansas Corporation Commission and the Utilities Division.
What is your business address?
1500 Arrowhead Drive, Topeka, Kansas.
Are you the same Adam Gatewood who caused to be filed in this docket direct testimony on May 10th, 2024, and testimony in support of settlement on June 28th, 2024?
Yes, I am.
Do you have any corrections that you wish to make to either of those testimonies?
No, I do not.
Chair French, I move to admit the pre-filed direct testimony and pre-filed testimony in support of settlement agreement of Mr. Gatewood to the record.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the reference testimonies of Mr. Gatewood will be admitted.
And then Chair French, I tender the witness for commission questions.
All right, thank you. Well, we'll do the same rotation again. Commissioner Keene, do you have any questions for Mr. Gatewood?
Good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Again, I must extend my kudos to you as well for the thoroughness of your testimony. It's pretty straightforward. I think I understand the point you were raising here. I appreciate your having addressed the major issues that are before the commission on this particular docket. And I won't ask you any questions about 2045 or any other year beyond the current date that we're at. So that would conclude the totality of my inquiry. I have no questions of this witness. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Keither, do you have any questions for Mr. Gatewood?
No, I don't. Thank you.
And I can't think of anything to ask you, Mr. Gatewood, so I'd like to try, but I won't delay us any further. So we do thank you for your time and for joining us this morning, and you may virtually step down.
Thank you.
Let me ask before I conclude the hearing, is there anything further from the parties that needs to be addressed this morning?
Chairman French, this is Susan Cunningham for KEPCO.
Yes.
I don't know that this is strictly necessary, but I feel like I would be remiss if I did not note for the record that both Rebecca Fowler and Brad Hutton, technical staff with KEPCO, are on this call as well. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there is nothing further, as a concluding matter, I will go ahead and conclude our hearing in the matter of the 2023 Wolf Creek Triennial Decommissioning Financing Plan. As a reminder, a commission order in this docket is due by October 1st, 2024. If there are no further matters, we are adjourned. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Work.